What are you giving out tonight?
We're giving out full size. I'll tell you that much right now. Because the last thing I need is some kid to say that Coach Rivera is giving out small, cheap candy. So we get full sized. And you've got to be under 13 to get one. So you guys, I don't expect to see any of you guys there.
Ron, Coach Borrego heard about that, and he says you've upped the ante for all the other coaches here.
We were laughing about that. I guess one time we had lunch and we had talked about that, and I said, one thing too, you got to be careful on Halloween. The kids are expecting the full-size candy bars.
Is Stephanie going to try to dress Tahoe?
Oh, she has. She's got a little outfit for him. Oh yeah. It's kind of a scary little thing and a skeleton thing. So, oh yeah.
At this point, Cam has the fewest sacks that he's had at this point in the season. What do you feel could be contributing to that?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with style of offense. The play calling as far as what Coach Turner's doing, the play selection. I think the protection. I think again, as I've told you guys before, a lot of kudos to our O-line coaches, to our offensive coaches for that matter, in setting up our protections. The players in front of him. And then the receivers around him, running backs around him, tight ends around him, and then him getting the ball out. I think there's a difference, obviously, in the way he's played compared to the last few years. So I just think, and we've talked about this, that he's taken another step, and I think this is all part of his growth as a quarterback.
When you have so many weapons like you do, it means that many people want the ball. How important is it not to necessarily get them the ball, but just to kind of control the ego?
Well, I think a big part of it is because, one thing that Coach tries to do, and in my opinion, in his play calling is to use a lot of different personnel groups, give a lot of guys opportunities, and then he just basically tells them, you make the most of your opportunity. One of the things that he emphasizes that they play fast because you never know, and so I think knowing that your chances to touch the ball may be limited, they do everything they can to put themselves in position to be seen and be successful with the ball in their hands.
I see your shirt, and obviously a couple of your guys, Chris Manhurst, Julius Peppers, went to encourage early voting for the midterms next week, yesterday during their day off. What does this process mean to you, and how empowering is it for you to be able to cast your vote every year?
Well, in a lot of the things that we've had come about in the last few years, I've always said, if you want to make a difference, you want to contribute, vote, and I really do believe that. So that's why, the T-shirt makers put one on my chair. Really just to emphasize that vote your conscience, vote what you think is right for what's best for this country, but vote because it's a civic duty.
How do you feel that Norv has been able to connect with Cam this year to help him buy into that system and make the changes that he's been able to make so far this year?
Well, I think a little bit of it has to do with Cam knows who Norv is. When Cam met Norv for the first time, he was a little nervous about it. And he and I chit-chatted a little bit about it, and he said, Coach, if you think about who he's trained and the guys that he's coached, and he's right. If you think about it, I mean, this is a guy that's, that had Troy Aikman when he first started, and he's coached Alex Smith, and he's coached Phillip Rivers, so he's had a lot of success, and I think Cam respects it, and I think that's helped Cam in terms of developing that relationship.
Cam talked about handling success and how it's so much harder than, when you know what you need to fix, it's easier. So
yes.
What have you learned as a head coach of dealing with success, especially the past 5 quarters?
Well, probably one of the biggest things that we've talked about is most certainly is, it does hide a lot of things. You all of a sudden have a lot more new friends, and that you got to be careful. I mean, that's the truth of the matter, because again, it's very fleeting, and so we've got to go out and perform each week. We got a football team in there that's very explosive. They're top offense in the league in terms of total yards, so we have to be aware. And they have a defense with a lot of playmakers. So we, as a football team, got to be ready to play against a good football team, a talented football team, and can't take anything for granted. And again, we always talk about it on Monday when we watch the previous game. You've got to be honest with yourselves. Did you really play as well as it looked, or you think?
You ever look at? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, just to follow up. So the first 4 games, yes, they were wins, but there were very clearly identifiable kind of flaws at that point. But when you play a complete game like you did against Baltimore for 4 quarters, it seems like you played really well. How critical do you have to be in breaking down that film to kind of find things that?
I don't think you have to look for them. You just got to be honest. I mean, you want to be honest about it. Defensively, we didn't play very well that first series. Offensively, we didn't play well our very first series. We had opportunities to get off the field the first time, and we didn't. we had opportunities to score the first time we had the ball. We didn't. You know, we got fortunate. We were fortunate on a special teams play that, you know, they caught them illegal procedures, so we were able to, you know, force them to punt. You know, you can go back and you find them. All you do is just watch them and be honest. I think that's the biggest thing that we need to do. You know, those first 4 games, yeah, we were still searching for a little bit of our identity. We hadn't had everybody on you know, back on the roster yet. We're just getting guys back in comfortable into playing again. So yeah, there's a lot that needs to be corrected. If you're being honest.
And obviously, every single day of practice is a huge collaborative effort across the organization. When Cam Newton is limited, what kinds of pieces shift and adjust accordingly, and also what is his daily routine then like?
Well, for the most part, you know, he takes all the reps that we do have slated for him, and those that he's not on the field as the quarterback, he stands behind Taylor and he watches and he goes through the motions of what he would do. So he's constantly engaged. Scotty Turner is in his ear. Coach Norv is in his ear. And really kind of a neat thing, too, is he's also in the ear of his teammates. Tell him, hey, look, you know, I may see this, so make sure you push that route a little bit more this way or something like that. So he's engaged and he's interacting constantly. And I don't think there's much of a change, Jordan. I think Norv calls the plays that he's going to call for him. And everybody else just, you know, they continue to operate and function the way that they normally would if he was on the, you know, if he was on the field or not.
Fans probably don't appreciate anything a backup quarterback does during practice, but on a day like today, how important is Taylor for the rest of the team to get the practice they need, and his role being crucial for this upcoming game?
Well, I think, again, with Taylor, you can't miss a beat, and he's a smart, sharp football player who just waits for his opportunity to get on the field, which we saw on Sunday. And he just, you know, he goes through everything that Cam would do for the most part. So he just, it's really just next man up in terms of that. The guy that really kind of, you know, came in was Kyle Allen, you know, bringing him back and giving him an opportunity. Now he's got to run the scout team. So what he does is probably a little bit more important as far as our defense is concerned, and he handled that very well. So both those guys have, you know, contributed, especially when the, you know, when your starter's down.
I think I know why you brought Kyle back, but what was the decision when you guys cut him, you know, a few weeks ago?
Well, we wanted to look at Connor Cook, another quarterback that was out there, and so we wanted to take a look. You know, Marty brought a guy in that he had seen and knew of his reputation, and we wanted to see what he was like. And then we got into a situation where we had to make a move and bring a linebacker in, which we did, and the spot was that the quarterback. Now with the situation with Cam, where we have a new normal, you know, we've got to make sure we have a third arm for the Wednesday, Thursday practices for the most part.
Last year when as he continued to recover from the surgery, the new normal was like right out of the gate. Now he's had this off season, this training camp to get to gel with these receivers. So now it almost seems like he's taking more of a natural vet day than.
Well, to a degree. I mean, he was tired after the Philadelphia game. I mean, he threw 22 passes in the fourth quarter, which was a lot in a very short time. So. But he was sore, and he just needed the rest, and so that's kind of what happened. I think it has evolved into that, Jordan. I think the big plus is he had the OTAs, mini camps, and training camp to gel with these guys at the beginning of the season, and now I guess we are kind of in a situation where this is our new normal.
Along those lines, kind of what Jordan was saying, we know Cam doesn't like, to be limited, but he did talk about today, knowing to work smarter, not necessarily harder.
Yes.
Do you see him starting to embrace now this kind of maybe shift towards the more being a veteran?
Yes, very much so, because like when you see certain drills that are done, you can see him going through it in his mind, or you can actually see him move his, if this play may call for a certain type of footwork or something, he'll stand back there and practice the footwork. So you do see him doing those things. Every now and then I'll see him, and I'll see him pointing, to okay, that's the high say, okay, and so he's thinking about what route combination should be run when he's throwing the ball. So he is at that point where I guess you could say he has matured to that point, and again, it's a good thing for him, because he's at a point probably where he doesn't need to throw 105 balls a day.
When you look at what's happening now in Tampa Bay with their quarterback situation, Sean's dealing with some things up in Buffalo with instability at quarterback. You ever step back and think, how lucky you are to have, what Cam has done?
Constantly, we really do. I mean, it's important, especially in this league, just shows you how important it is to have your franchise quarterback and have the position stabilized. You know, for the longest time, we were very fortunate to have DA as the backup, and then you know, we feel very good with Taylor. I mean, we've got some guys that we really think can help us going forward. So it was kind of neat to be in that situation where, you know, for 7 seasons you didn't have to worry about who your starter was until, you know, he got hurt or something. But you always had a quality backup in Derek, and that's one of the things that Marty's trying to look for. You know, bringing in Taylor and letting him compete like he did, and Taylor being the guy. But now he's been looking, and that's why we brought Kyle back. That's why we had Connor Cook in, because we're trying to find. You always got to try and look for the next guy, and who knows what's going to happen next offseason, what our scouting department is going to do, what Marty's going to think is important for us as far as our quarterback future.
When you drafted Dante to work opposite James, was the Tampa Bay wide receiver core with a speedy guy like Jackson and a big guy like Evans, was that kind of the model of how you match up?
They all are. I mean, and that's the truth of the matter. When you go back and you look at it, the first thing we looked at when we talk about, Marty and I talked about last year, was how do we match up in our division? How do we match up with Tampa Bay? How do we match up with Atlanta? How do we match up with New Orleans? Those are the things that you have to think about. I know here part of the reason they drafted Thomas Davis was to match up with Michael Vick. So you have to sit back and always talk about how do you match up in your division first and foremost. That's probably the most important thing you have to do, because if you hope to win it, you've got to win within it. You've got to be able to beat those guys consistently. If you're not matching up, you're going to have some trouble. So we're fortunate. We feel really comfortable with the guys we have. We like our guys. Again, you know, you always have to look at what your opponents are doing and figure out how to beat them.
I think DJ played 70% of the offensive snaps on Sunday. Did he do enough to earn that kind of workload moving forward?
I think so. You know, and again, it's always about growth. I mean, we've got some young guys that just need to be on the football field. That's the only way they get better is by playing. But at the same time, you don't want to forsake the opportunity to win. DJ's proven that he can be part of winning. He can be part of the reason why we win. You know, you don't want to win because of somebody all the time, because now you're going to rely on them too much. But it is a good thing to have guys that you can say, hey, we can win with this guy. We know we can win with this guy. But we have, you know, we've got to find out more about Curtis. Curtis has been great for us every chance he's got. So, you know, trying to find opportunities to play him more. Those are things that, you know, that's tough for us. And we're very fortunate because, you know, we've drafted well the last few years. And, you know, we've brought in some quality free agents that have helped us. You know, we're in a good spot. We're very fortunate.
Look at a number of your touchdowns. When you guys have scored, it seems like McCaffrey is somehow involved. Like he's a fake handoff to him, where guys are going towards him, and it's maybe opening some other things. How valuable has it been to have him on the field, not just as a runner, but in that other where he's attracting attention?
Well, I think again, you look at the guys that Norv has on the field and the position. The personnel groupings that he uses. And then the actions that go with it. A lot of that is, you know, about the deception part as to, you know, the misdirection as to who's getting the ball, who's not. I think some of the Ravens players said it best. I mean, the thing that's fortunate for us, as far as the Ravens is concerned, they see us once every 4 years, okay? Whereas we're playing a team now that sees us twice a year. So it's going to be different. But, you know, having guys like Christian, having guys like Curtis and DJ and Funch and Greg and, you know, I can go right down the list of every one of those players. There's something that these guys do that the opponent has to be concerned with. And like I said, I always open up that page and I go right to the targets. And I love seeing 7, 8, 9 guys, different guys targeted, because that's telling you the ball's being spread.
Are you leaning towards a start for DJ this
Say it again?
Are you leaning towards a start for DJ Moore?
Well, we'll see. I mean, again, a lot of it depends on what Norv calls as far as the personnel groupings. So, you know, we could start with 3 tight ends on the field, or we can start with no tight ends on the field. We can start with 5 wide receivers or not. So, you know, I'm not leaning towards anything as far as that's concerned. We're just going to do as Coach sees fit as far as our offense is concerned.
Did his knee progress at all throughout the week? And the status of his knee progress?
Yes, it has. And again, you know, he's just one of those things that we'll continue to see how he is the next day, and, you know, let the trainers continue to do what they do.
If you had like a target for Tour.
No target. I don't want to do, you know, put anything like that. I'll just listen to what the trainers have to tell us.
Practice the deep ball during the week. How that impact what you call in the game?
I don't think it impacts anything. I think again, it all comes down to what's called and then what his progression calls for. I think that's really what impacts it more than anything else. He's again, he'll throw the ball at the end of the week like he's done in the past, and we'll play football on Sunday.
Last week just different because of the rain, and he didn't
Yeah,
really get to
the
do
Friday
it.
was not a good day to throw a heavy ball. That's a big part of the reason. He threw early. He warmed up. He threw his quick throws, the underneath throws, and then as the day progressed, we shut him down just because we don't want him throwing a heavy ball.
Hey Ron, just to clarify, he probably won't throw Wednesdays and Thursdays.
No, we'll see how it is. I mean, really, a lot of it depends on how he feels when he first stretches and warms up in the morning, earlier, just before practice. And if I remember correctly, last year in Thursdays he threw the underneath stuff, and then Friday he was full go. So we'll see how it is tomorrow, though.